Welcome to the Vera Thomas Show, where testimony, reality and truth meet you at the front door. Perspective to propose. Politics, religion, we talk about the real world we live in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it on the Vera Thomas Show. From purpose, uplifting, courage, inspire, motivate, and let's talk about it on the Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited today to have as my guest, Mr. Tony Dee. How are you today?
I'm great. How about you?
I am great. I am great. I am going to share with our audience a little bit more about Mr. Tony Dee. He is a songwriter, a music producer, author, educator, and speaker dedicated to bridging music with the practical power of compassion. The author of Real Love Made Practical and founder of Musician Love, Tony views music as a transformative tool that helps people recognize their worth, foster deeper connections, and turn compassion into action. With a rich background spanning radio success, street team direction for major labels like Sony Music, Ty Scott, Verity, and formal studies at Berklee College of Music, Tony blends deep creative expertise with technical mastery. Beyond the studio, he has spent decades teaching conflict resolution, cultural diversity, and creative expression through community programs, schools, and organizations, helping individuals unlock their potential and live love as an everyday discipline. The central idea behind the conversation, he says, I don't want ideas about love. I want a way to live in it. For Tony, music and real love made practical meet at one point. Both help people move from knowing something intellectually to feeling it deeply enough to live differently. A song can open the heart. Practical love gives the heart a way to act. Suggested one-sentence identity, he uses music, storytelling, and practical principles of love to help people recognize their value, understand one another, and turn compassion into a way of life. I love it. I love it. I love it. We're on the same page. And I am so excited that you're here so that we can really talk about love and what it really means. And it is an action word. Before I go any further, I'm going to give you the floor and ask you to share with us, what was your childhood like and how did it impact on you?
Wow. My childhood was it was a bit different. You know, I believe everybody's childhood was a bit stressful. Mine was peaceful. And it came in phases. First phase was peaceful. The second phase was teased. And the third phase was determined. And I started drawing before I could talk. I remember walking under the table and the ice cream truck bell was ringing. So mom had always would always give me paper and pencil. I was still at the babysitter's house that night. She came home to pick me up, and the ice cream truck pulled up, and I drew an ice cream cone. The babysitter said, "Oh, he drew an ice cream cone," but that was what I couldn't talk, so I had to communicate in a way that in the best way I could. So being a child with I was the only child for like 7 years of my life, and that allowed me time to be alone, exclusively alone. Mom worked long hours. I stayed at the babysitter's house. When I got a little older, and this is my tease period, I entered school. And the first thing that happened when I went into first grade, we had just moved to a new neighborhood. I had these, mom dressed me in what I would call Sunday go to church meeting clothes. I have on a tie and, these hard shoes and so on. And the kids just laughed at my shoes and my outfits. And I'm like, Mom, would you buy me some blue jeans and Chuck Taylors or something so I can match with the rest of the kids? You know, that teasing, I wore glasses. That teasing continued on and on and on. I remember my fifth grade teacher, and now he was my sixth grade teacher. He asked the whole class, "What are you going to do to get out?" The time he got to me, he said, "No, you're going to be a janitor." And the whole class burst out laughing. That hurt to a core. I think it still hurts to the day, actually. But I was determined. I came from an extended family. I had 10 aunts and a slew of cousins. And that teasing didn't stop with my classmates. It continued and my teacher, but it continued on with my family. My cousins would, they would, I'm sure they didn't mean any harm, but they would joke. I didn't appreciate that much at all.
I'm having a hard time hearing you. Can you get closer to your mic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, much better.
Turn it up a little bit here, and that will give me more. That's the wrong mic to turn up. That's the best.
Perfect. Yes.
Good, good. I and being an only child helped me to observe people. The understanding that I was being framed in a way that I didn't like being framed, or I didn't appreciate being framed. I began to understand how people think, and what person would say that, what person would do this, so on and so it just locked itself in my mind, and I began to have an appreciation for personal development or understanding psychology. I didn't know it back then. I didn't know what I was doing, but that third section, that determined section, what happened that all of that teasing, I could have been resentful, I could have been angry, but I wasn't. I was determined to say and to show that I'm my own person. I can't be influenced by what you want me to be, because that you've already shown me what you think I am. I'm not that. So I determined back then as a child that I would work to be the best me that I could be. And I've been working on that ever since. Not to say that I've lived a perfect life. No, I haven't. I made mistake after mistake after mistake. But I keep pushing for that better me, for that better me. I've gone I've gone through education time and time again, and I'm still studying right now. So that's my I would say my childhood made me determined to be the best I could be. But not only that, I had this thing in my childhood, this thought that if the Bible taught that Jesus taught love, then wait a minute, what is love? Who are
Yes.
we? How do we? Well, in that case, shouldn't people be more concerned about the well-being of one another instead of putting each other
Yes.
down and looking at what they might not like about that person? What about lifting that person up? So for
Yes.
years, I am over 50 years old right now. I'm a little bit a little bit over 50 years old, and it's been over 50 years that I've been living in that thought. How can we make sure that we do things that are good for and need and in the best interest of other people?
That
So
is
that's what it
beautiful.
left me with.
That is beautiful. And your story is much like I can relate. I grew up being teased and bullied and ridiculed and told things like you're stupid, dumb, fat, ugly, you're nothing, you'll never be anything. and was told this by adults as well as being teased by kids. And so I can so understand that tease part of your story and understanding. And you said something real significant. You understood that it wasn't what other people thought, and what helped me. Our journeys are so similar because I went through personal development and all that. And I remember reading a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, which said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission." And that resonated with me, and it helped me to understand that it doesn't matter what other people think or say. What matters is how I see myself and how I talk to myself, and this thing about love. But before we even get into that conversation, I'm going to play your video, and then we're going to come back and talk about real love, the kind of love that is spoken of in the Bible, the kind of love that is missing in our society today. But before we get into all that, let me play this video.
Hi, my name is Antonius, Tony for short. Imagine you had to relearn simple things that you knew before, like walk, to move on with your life. Imagine you were in a terrible car accident that broke everything on your left side. You were dragged down the street, hanging out of the car upside down, face scraping the concrete. A brick wall stopped your car to keep your face from being totally scraped off. As you lay unconscious in the hospital, the doctors told your mom you would never walk again. You would never be able to learn again, that you would live in a wheelchair the rest of your life as a vegetable. And a miraculous thing happened 2 weeks later. You woke up. You get out of the hospital, what seems like 6 months later. You laid on the floor in front of your grandmother's encyclopedia set, day after day, reading the science of the nutrition and exercises your body needed to rebuild itself. After that self-training and study, you did those things. You worked and you made it. You learned how to walk again. You earned a 4.0 grade point average in college, contrary to the doctor's predictions. You got a job at Peace Education, teaching conflict resolution, songwriting. You gave students the music to help them internalize conflict resolution. All while you were doing this, your brother was shot and killed by a 14-year-old as his application for entry into a gang. What would that make you feel? Well, that was me. And it made me feel the commitment to do things that are good for, needed by, and in the best interest of my listeners. So I took a look back on my life, my challenges, my healings, to learn what it took to learn to walk again. What did it take to earn a scholarship to college? I noticed a pattern. I had developed a way to calculate success. Part of my college studies were the psychology of music. Now, I'll share why that's important later. That awareness of calculating success brought out a determination in me to not just teach it, but to release music with some of its elements to lift hearts and minds to areas of higher consciousness, higher motivation, higher love. I set out to find the teenager that killed my brother. I wanted to share Peace Education with him. But before I could connect with him, he'd hung himself in jail. I was a bit too late. As you can imagine, the emotions from that shifted me from a determination to teach calculating success to a burning desire to share compassion, the lessons of personal development that I had learned along with conflict resolution, the power of caring. It may have been too late for that teen, but I knew people like you want to know what he didn't have the opportunity to learn. I believe this is why I didn't die in my car accident. Now I'm committed to your well-being. Call it a movement if you want to. Matter of fact, it's a movement to help you grow in ways that you haven't thought of before now. So join me, and I'll teach you to calculate success just as I had learned.
Wow. What a story. What a story. And it all, and we were all born with purpose, and he said, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. I knew you before you were born. And even with all that you went through, God had a plan for such a time as now. And I'm going to pull up your book and we're going to talk about that because it is the impetus for all the other work that you're in the process of doing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me pull it up and tell us more about Real Love Made Practical so you can live in it each and every day.
This is, and I'm bringing it to you. I'm going to talk about it in an organic way because I remember you saying your show is organic, and I want to stay true to that. This book was sparked by there's a process going on in the world right now that we know where it come from. We know where it came from. And we understand that we are to survive ourselves in this world. I think the problem is that this word love has been expanded beyond its true meaning. And so there's a missing, a pig missing out of the puzzle that I think people need to see. So what happened to me, I realized that people need to feel good about what they're learning. You want to have information that is easily digestible, and you don't want it just for one audience. You want to kind of spread it out a little bit and make it available to more people. So I wanted to make this available to youth as well as to adults. And so the story talks about and here's what happened. Let me go way back. The character is called, his name is Serenity. And he came from another planet. When he got to Earth, he realized, I need to find this thing because Earth has it here. Well, he came to Earth because his planet was being attacked by this big demon, wanted to eat it up. And the only thing that chases that demon away is love, true love, real love. He can't stand it. It's like Superman and kryptonite. He flees when it gets so. He knew he had to come to Earth where this thing called true love is. Now, the situation is people on Earth don't know. There are so many people that do know, but it's not widespread. It's seen, but not talked about. It's felt, but not all the time understood. And we that live it, we know we care about that person. We know we want to lift that person up. We know we want to do those things that are good for need about and in their best interest. But what about the rest of the world? What about those people that have those other things in their heart, such as hatred and anger and jealousy and envy and those things? It's important that we begin to understand the power, because true love is human's most powerful element on this earth. And I'm saying that because there's a scripture that taught that, but it's not taught widespread. There we go again with the widespread thing. The scripture is in 1 John 4:16, and it says, God is love. Then it breaks it down. It says, we know God because God is love. Those who live in love live in God. Here's a kicker. God lives also in you. Now, okay, so with that, I wanted to know, wait a minute, you got love, you got God, you put them in one place, they're the same. Okay, so tell me what love is then, if it started making sense to me. Okay, so here we have love and we have God. Wait, what is God? Okay, so if love is God, God is love, let's break, how do we understand who God is, what God is, or how he functions? Well, let's think about those things. Every day I wake up, I'm able to take a breath.
Yes.
That's love. Every day I walk out the door and it's raining, my skin is protected. The rain falls off me like water, as it is. Every day I have the opportunity to think, thought, and make another choice to make some kind of progress in my life. That's opportunity. So all of these things being taken care of, provided for, opportunities, protected, those things are love. And there are somewhere along the way we learn we need to live like him. We need to act like him. We need to do those things that he would do. Oh, so we are responsible for being protective of other people. We're responsible for taking care of other
Yes.
people. We're responsible for doing those things that are good for, because that's what he does. Does those things that are good for, needed by, and in our best interest. And sometimes that
Yes.
best interest is not always happy-go-lucky, hoo-hoo, ha-ha, he, I'm smiling. Sometimes we have to suffer a little bit to learn a lesson or to grow beyond that way, or maybe to be turned to a different direction. That is the power of love. And we begin to access that power. We begin to tap into that power and connect with each other. We will build such a unity, not this unstoppable. That's the power of love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you are talking about God is love, and I think of two scriptures. One in Malachi, where he says there are three things, there's only three things that he requires us to do. And that is to do justice, have mercy, and walk humbly before your God. That's love. And then I think about 1 Corinthians 13:4-7, where he defines love. And I think that definition is God. God is love. So love is patient, it's kind, it's not envious, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. That's love. Now, the question is, how do we convey this? And I know you are conveying it through music. Music is love. I mean, so how do we get people to understand that we wouldn't have all the issues that we have today if we practice and put love in action?
I think I might have an answer to some of that.
I thought you might. That's why I asked the question. And I see
Okay.
we've got people here that are listening. Feel free to chime in and let us know that you're here, and let us know where you're from. And please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Vera Thomas Show. All right, go ahead.
I don't really remember how old I was, but it's been years ago. I was in Midland, Michigan, and I stayed with the vice president of Dow Corning, and his next door to him was the Presbyterian Library, which allowed me to go in and research some of the original language of Hebrew. And when I did, I was really touched on what I learned about love. And that's why I talk the way I talk. That's why I share the information I share, because it relates back to the original purpose of love. It was switched around to make feel it was a romantic endeavor, taking care of the well-being of the other people, of the other person. So which, like I said, if you can imagine walking down the aisle, and if you say, oh, I can't wait to get to that hotel room or wherever we're going for the honeymoon, if that's the most important thing, you're missing out. Because on the other side of that is the commitment to do those things that are good for needed by and in the best interest of the other person. Now, just imagine if both persons were walking down the aisle with that in their mind. What's going to happen to that marriage? They're going to build stronger and stronger and stronger, because they're supporting each other. They're in support of the development of each other, and they're actively involved in doing those things that are good for and in the best interest of each other. So what I've done, like I said, it's been over 50 years since I've started studying this project, and I put note after note after note after note after note. I realized this isn't doing anybody any good but me. Let's write this down and start to share it. So I wrote it down in a book about my wife and I. And I'm like, that sounds so selfish. So I walked away from that book and I thought, how can you share with other people so that they can get this and share with their people? Whoa, wait a minute, there's an idea. Who shares with other people more than other people? Musicians.
Absolutely. And before you continue, I want to acknowledge
Yes,
we've got some people that did chime in. Utissa, hi. Thank you. Grand evening. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you very much. And then Ask Coach Liz, appreciating this guest and topic. Thank you for listening as well. This is an important topic. It's critical for what's
yes.
going on in our country. And she says, hi. Okay, thank you. And please share this with others. All right, go ahead.
Now, musicians share more than the average person would ever imagine sharing. And so I thought, wait a minute, what if musicians were to see the value of this thing and really bring it to themselves? And so one of the musicians that I know used this. Her manager taught this message in Nashville. I lived in Nashville a while, and her manager said this young lady was on the stage for a Grammy. And we all remember seeing her on stage for Grammy. I may not share her name, but she was on the stage for a Grammy and she lost. And because she lost, she was so upset it wasn't funny. She was to tears. And she said, this is not going to happen to me anymore because I'm going to love my fans more than anybody could love their fans ever, more than they can imagine they would be loved by an artist like me. She did that. She is a billionaire now because of her love. She gave love. And I want to share this lesson. I break it down in more detail when musicians come into the program, but I created a course that shares that, how to build more revenue with your abilities. But it's not about the revenue. It's about helping people. So you take that revenue and you spin it out to the people that you're helping. Okay, so we have a course that teaches that love, the whole spectrum of love that we're talking about, not just person to person, but it's an international, it's a national, it's a city, statewide effort that musicians can take to bring themselves in front of the people that they are in front of and empower them more so that their people can appreciate them more and pay more attention to the work that they're doing with their music. All at the same time, we're taking this music and we're planting love inside those lyrics. We're planting love inside the performances. We're planting love inside the efforts that are tied to those musicians and those performances and that product that they're creating, so that the message love is embroidered into what they're doing. The audience can't help but see it, and they can't help but fall in love back with them. Not I said fall in love. That's our human habit to say fall in love because of the tradition that has come from romance, but it's really rise to love. If we can rise to that
I love it. Rise to love. And I want to acknowledge Sean Pitts from Louisville, Kentucky.
All right.
Thank you for being here as well. Now, you said rise to love. How do you transfer the love from the music sense to all of us?
It begins to be and now when you get the book, if you get the book, you'll see it illustrated by Serenity, how he comes in the community and he's totally oblivious to what's going on the earth. He comes from space, comes from a cosmos that we don't know about. We'll know about it when we read the book, but he comes from a place that we haven't heard of. Now, what he does is he engages when he sees people with problems. He reaches out to those people. How can I help? How can I be of assistance? Sometimes he doesn't say, "How can I?" He just reaches in and does those things that are needed for good for a needed by and in the best interest of that person. And that's part of the message. You have to be concerned, and it has to be if you care about yourself. It's about realizing. I used to teach a class. It was summer during the school system. The public school system hired me to tour around the different schools and teach this curriculum that I had created. It was a positive message songwriting course for high school, middle school students. And what happened was a lot of those students were in gangs. And one of the things I taught was, the examples I gave was, when you point your finger, when you point that gun to that other person, guess what? You got to hold it. Those other three fingers are pointing back at you. What happens is you just created a target on your back. Why would you create a target on your back when you could create an effect that allows that person to appreciate who you are and reciprocate that to you? So begin to learn how to take care of other people, not attack other people. When you can do that, people will appreciate you on a higher level. That's called rising in love. And you help them rise in love because they just got on board to bring that love back to you that you shared with them.
Well, let me ask you, okay, so how would you define the word love?
Wow, there's a definition I have that has 7 points to it. But it's basically, and to sum it up, is love is the commitment to do those things that are good for, needed by, and in the best interest of the other people.
Okay, wait a minute. I wanna write that in the chat here. So love is the
commitment to do things that are good for, needed by, and in the best interest of other people. It is magnanimous.
Wait a minute. Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay.
It's altruistic.
Yes.
And it is the highest power.
Yes. All of that. Yes. Magnanimous, yes. Meaning giving. Yes. You know, and when we talk about giving, it's not necessarily giving of money or any of that. It's giving of your time, giving of yourself, showing that you truly care about other people. But let's face it, it starts with loving yourself.
Exactly. And here's where it hit me, because all of the mistakes I've made in my life, I felt belittled. I felt small. Mm-hmm. And when you feel small, you don't want to do things. You just shy away.
Right.
And so I had to forgive myself.
Yes.
Of the things that might have been holding me back or that took my mind from where it really needed to be. And when you can do that, when you can forgive, it allows a strength to come out. And that's why it's important to forgive other people. You forgive yourself and then forgive other people. If you have no other people to forgive, the main thing is forgive yourself. Don't be angry at yourself for whatever mistake you made. Come out, understand, learn the lesson, understand the mistake you made, and move forward from there.
Yes, absolutely. And in addition to that, not only you cannot love anyone else if you
Until
don't
you love yourself.
Love yourself.
Exactly.
Even scripture says, love thy neighbor as thyself. And it starts with forgiving yourself, as you said, and then forgiving other people. Now, the problem is we beat up on ourselves and we keep looking back at all the things we did that may not have been in our best interest or in the best interest of other people. So the next step after forgiving yourself is stop looking back. Stop looking back. It's over. It's done. There's nothing that can be done about it. And
you make amends and you move forward.
Make amends and move forward. Absolutely. Absolutely. there was another point you were getting ready to make, and I stopped you because I was trying to type. Do you remember what it
Oh,
was?
it was love is altruistic and it's the highest power.
It
Now,
really is.
going back from that scripture I mentioned, John 4:16, when you get to John, First John, it's not John, it's First John. But when you get to the first part, it says, those who love or those who do not love cannot love God, because how can you love God when you can't love the neighbor that's right next to you?
Absolutely. And yet, in this country, we've got these so-called Christians who's taking away our rights, who's causing our health insurance to skyrocket, who's causing our gas to be through the roof. But yet, they're Christians.
They're wearing the label of Christian. I don't want to put other people down. I want to lift them up. If we can lift them up
Absolutely.
into another level, that would be great. That would
How
be
do we
great
do
for them.
that?
How do we do that? We connect with them. I remember I worked for Peace Education and the National Coalition Building Institute. We had a session that there was a portion of that section. We did, most of the time we went different places. We would hold this segment. And Judy was our leader. I really appreciate Judy. Thank her for bringing me on and hiring me to tour around and teach this thing that I do. She would look in the audience and realize that people were sitting together that came together. She'd break it up. Sit by somebody you never met, somebody that looks totally different than you. I want you to get to that place, mix it up. So we'd switch up and mix it up. And sometimes you may be sitting by somebody that totally hates you. You may have thought, oh, this person doesn't want me sitting by them. I can't, I don't know, so sit down. So she gave us some questions to ask. What was your childhood like? What was your grandmother like? Where did you live? How was living in those days? And we talked about the biscuits and we talked about going outside to play and, it's ready, come and get it. It's time to eat, different things. But what we had discovered is that a majority of people had the same experiences coming up.
Yes.
We're not so different. We're not so different at all. These ideologies that happen come to disturb and separate. And our power is in unity.
Absolutely.
That's human power. Yes, it is. And so I think that process of connecting people that are not familiar with people is going to be one of our greatest tools.
Absolutely.
To a reality.
And we need to force ourselves to engage with people that are different from us.
Yes,
and
yes.
Even though we do have a lot in common, we all bleed red.
Yes.
And when you look at what was your childhood like, so many similarities, just like even with you and me and the similarities in our childhood, but understanding, even though we are unique, even though we are much alike, we are also very unique. And that's what we need to value, is our uniqueness. When you think about trees all over the world, out of all those trees, there's not one tree that is the same, but they're all beautiful trees. And that's with everything. And it's the same with us. If we can tap into the beauty that exists among us, within us, towards us, that's what we need to do.
My wife and I married close to 18 years ago. And I met her online and we talked. But before I met her, I wrote a list of my desires. The highest thing on my list was, I don't want to argue. I don't want yelling and screaming in our relationship. When we do get to that point where we're uncomfortable, we're unhappy, we just want to jump up and scream and shout, walk away. Be able to walk away,
Absolutely.
come back, and continue that conversation until we come to a resolution that's comfortable for both of us. It's not my way, it's not your way, it's our way. When we can do that,
Absolutely.
so that brings me to the next point, which is our greatest tool. We have two tools. We have a brain, we have communication. Lions and tigers and bears have claws and fangs. Birds have wings. That's their strength, that's their ultimate power. Humans have a brain and communication. And with that brain, we can think about love. With our communication, we can communicate that love. Communication is that strength that allows humans to be more powerful than most other animals in this earth.
Absolutely.
Now, they have communication. They talk amongst each other. But humans have a wider spectrum of thought, and that expands our communication ability. When we close that communication down, we weaken ourselves. We have to open that communication up, and when you when you pin it in with love, it begins to be so much stronger, because now you have some compassion, you have some concern, you have some I feel you in that mixture. So I think
Yes.
it's going to be important that we tap into how can we communicate, who can we meet, who can we share with. That's going to be one of our most powerful tools.
Absolutely. And I lived in Atlanta, and in Atlanta, you meet people from all over the world. That fascinated me. And being able to meet people from India, Spain, UK, all over the world, and have conversations with them was such a beautiful thing. And, that's what we need to do. But just, oh my God. My guest that I had last on Tuesday,
Mhm.
she talked about the table of soul, where you get together with other people that are diverse and different and have a meal with them, talk to them, get to know them. And I think there's a place in Savannah. I've never been to Savannah, but I understand there's a restaurant in Savannah where you come and people sit at the table that don't know each other and converse and talk and build that communications and those relationships. That's what it's going to take. That's going to
Yes.
eliminate the fear, the ignorance, and a better understanding that and like I said today to this class that I'm teaching, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat, going through some of the same things. And if we can communicate with each other, talk to each other, understand each other, then it's going to be a better place. It's
I was
going to be
listening,
a better place.
exactly. I was listening to an astronaut a few days ago, and he said, I do not see, when he was in the air or in space, he said, look down at the earth. He said, I don't see anybody attacking earth, or, there's nothing else here, and I think we're all on the same team. We're all on this ball together. Each person has to die. We only die one time, but we can live the life and appreciate it in love as we live this thing, as we communicate with each other. They used to do potluck dinners when we were with Peace Education. They just throw a potluck, and people from different communities would come together. What you're talking about, what reminds me of going to school in Boston. Went to Berklee College of Music, where musicians from all around the world came. And we all got to know each other. We appreciated each other. And that was a beautiful thing. We laugh
Yes.
and talk and go eat lunch together, go across the street and have a slice of pizza together. It was so
Yes.
much
Music.
fun.
Yes. Music is the universal language. And
Yes,
that's why it is love, because it's the universal language.
yes,
And I think of Stevie Wonder's songs in the key of love. You
yes.
know, oh my God.
Yes. Well, I think sometimes we can think that things are going to, we can project things are going to be bad. That person may not be this, that person done that, or, you know, humans have a way of projecting the worst situation. I remember going to bed the other night thinking, oh, somebody might get us. What was I worried about? You know, we live in a place where in today's society, anything is possible. Well,
Yeah.
anything has been possible for years. It has been, you know,
Yes.
you look at Rockefeller, who founded the oil industry, Standard Oil. Well, I'm not going to go into his history, but he made a lot of things possible for himself and his family. Some of those things hurt other people down the road, but he had no idea that was going to happen. He couldn't have known because he wasn't in the future. But he did the best that he could for himself and his family. Then he began to teach other people how to help other people. Even though would have been what we call today toxic to a lot of people, he had no way of knowing that. He was just doing the best that he could. So we appreciate that. I learned from it. And now it's time to grow on. It's time to go into
Yes.
understanding our
Yes.
natural abilities, our foods
Yes.
that were put on this earth naturally, those things that
Yes.
can heal us and teach us. Those are
Yes.
the things we need to pay attention to now. And it's all about loving ourselves and not just being guided by an outside force, but look inside. What do you need for yourself?
Absolutely.
And then do
And you
those things for
know,
other people.
exactly. And if we had more love for ourselves and others, we'd have less stress, less worry, less sickness, less all this negative toxic stuff. Now you said something earlier about when you met your wife and you had written down what you were expecting. And I think it's important to come back to that because it's important that we have values. We know what's important to us in relationships. We know what's important and what boundaries and things we will not accept. And in
Exactly.
so doing, that will also help us move more into a place of love, communications, and community.
Yes, yes. You know, and one of those considerations when I wrote it down, and I'd been studying people since I was a child. One of the things that I realized is that we weren't all raised in the same house. It's obvious, but a lot of times people expect it to be different. You know, you get in a relationship and you have a question that why is that person doing that? Or why are they like that? Those are good thoughts. But the thing is, we don't know what we don't know. And
Right.
so if you weren't raised in the same house, you won't treat that particular thing in the same way that that other person will treat that particular thing. One of my advices to young couples was or is get to know the person. Before you
Yes.
enter in a relationship, become friends. Get to know. I told my daughter, you want to know the likes and dislikes of that person. What do they like naturally? Just be friends. Here's what's going to happen when you're just friends before you get in a relationship. Just friends, 6 months to a year. 5 years is ultimate. Well, here's what's going to happen. A friend has no problem telling you what he's thinking about another person or his life or the future. When you jump in a relationship too quick, that person that's on the other side of that relationship may think, oh, I don't need to say this. I need to hide this part of myself or whatever. You want to be honest, open, and communicative to that person. You know, maybe everybody doesn't say everything that happened to them in life. It may harm that other person. You have to be considerate of that, but you have to get to know people. You have to understand that once you get in that relationship, you've got to know the other person, then you know, okay, these things that this person is about, I wouldn't be about that. You want to know the natural behavior of that person, not the mistakes, not all the mistakes that made, not all the joys and happiness and celebrations that they've had. You want to know that person's natural behavior. That may end up being a great relationship for you because your natural behaviors mesh with each other.
Yes. Now, in order for that to happen, though, you need to know you.
Yes.
And oftentimes people jump into another relationship immediately after another
Yes.
without assessing who they are, what their values are, what's important to them, what went wrong with that relationship, and how can it be better? What can I do that's different myself to make a relationship better? People
It's
don't do that, and that's
yes,
one of the things that I have developed a program to do.
yes,
Um,
it's beautiful.
it's important.
Yes, it is. When when we do that, we kind of it gives us the ability to relax with the other person. You know, you're not on your pin and needles trying to wonder what's going to happen because now you know the person and you're
Right.
comfortable. And you're able to make decisions with each other without yelling and screaming. Are you able to say, "Let's talk about this"? You
You
know,
and if
one
oh,
of
go
the things
ahead.
my wife and I have is if we do have a problem, she sees me in some behavior that it may have become a habit, or I may have doubled it or repeated it. She says, I don't like that. My response is, I work on that. Same thing with her. I said to her, whatever it is, here's a situation we have, here's a problem we have. She says, I work on that. And I
And
think
see, that's the
it's important to be congenial with each other, to be
yes.
agreeable. Don't be boxing and mentally fighting with each other. Let's be of love and be of those things that are good for anybody and in the best interest of the other person.
Absolutely. And yelling is not the way to do it. As a matter of fact, yelling can cause major issues, and it is traumatic. And I often ask people, how do you feel when someone yells at you? And then amplify it for even a child. And children don't need, if you're calling yourself loving somebody, and yet you're bickering and arguing and it's toxic, and your kids are seeing that, you're harming your kids as well as you're
Yes,
harming yourself. So love, and like you said, you got to get to know people before you can just jump into relationships.
yes,
Now, from a community perspective, and loving on our community and loving on each other, not from a romantic sense, but from that sense of being empathetic, compassionate, caring, altruistic, wanting to give of yourself to help somebody else. It is so rewarding to be able to do that. And it comes back to you when you do that in other ways, maybe.
yes, and you don't want to. It's a way of life. I say that. You know, I
Yes.
think in some instances we've in society we got to the place of investment. You invest your time, you want something back. You invest your mind, you feel like that other person owes you something, or that it could possibly be a mental, process that that person may be going through. It's hard for a lot of people to settle in on this thing called love because how do I love somebody they don't love me? Would be the question. That is a strength question. Do you find the strength in yourself to stand in the times of hardship? If that's the case, then you can love. If
And
that's
you,
not the case, then love needs to be worked on. But it's not an easy thing to do. I like saying this: anything you do over and over, you get good at it.
well, you know what? I think our people are exemplary in showing love, even to those who have mistreated us, who have treated us bad throughout our history. We don't take on that. We're more loving, we're a loving people. And even though we've gone through all kinds of suppression, depression, and all those things, and I think that's because we recognize God is love, and because of our faith, I believe that we're able to show love towards those that don't love us. And we know they don't love us, but yet we don't do anything to try to harm people on intentionally like it's been done to us.
No, and I think, there's two sides to that. One, there's a thing called environmental intelligence, then there's genealogical intelligence. The environmental intelligence is things that you will learn from the outside. Genealogical intelligence is things that were born into you. And a lot of people don't recognize that, or may not realize that those things that happened 300, 400 years ago to our race, they're born into our DNA. They're born into our psyche. And usually, unless there's a system or a process in place already, you're going to repeat those same things. You're going to repeat that behavior. I grew up, I was just talking with somebody the other day about getting whoopings as a child. And when I would go in to get the whooping, I did whatever mistake I made. Sometimes I didn't know I made a mistake. I just made a mistake, but I still get a whooping for it. And I go in and they, why did you do that? What made you do that? And question after question after question after question. And it was so big. I'm thinking, just go ahead and get the whooping over with so I can get where I'm going. And it hurt like I don't know what, but you don't want to stay in that situation.
No.
But the point I'm trying to make is sometimes you just have to wade through that situation and get to the other side. These the genealogical intelligence, those things that have been born in you, when we behave in that way, the process is to create a process that will lead you through from that thing, like yelling and screaming or getting a whooping. When you can educate yourself or guide yourself through not in participating in those behaviors, then that will transmit into the generation to come. So now you've broken that curse, the generational curse that they say. You've broken away from that, I need to give them a whooping. I told my daughter, don't whoop your children. I didn't whoop her. I talked to her. When I said, here's what I'm going to do if you do that, I didn't yell and scream. I just did what I told her I was going to do if she didn't do that. And so she began to come up with an attitude of, I need to do what I need to do. She became she's a great person. I just look at her and I'm really appreciative of the person she became. Nobody's perfect. We all have our flaws, but there are those things that we can appreciate about each other, and we should acknowledge those things, and that causes those things to grow. That's love.
That's love. And we've only got a couple more minutes, believe it or not. But there's one point I want to make regarding corporal punishment or whipping your children. When you do that, you're teaching your kids that that's how you deal with conflict. That's how you resolve issues. And that is not the way to go.
Not the way, no.
The communication, being able to talk to them, being able to chastise without that beating and hitting and questioning, what made you do that? What should your consequence be as a result of what you did? And get them engaged in that process as well, instead of whipping your children, because again, it teaches your child that that's how you deal with conflict. And someone told my son once, well, your mom must not love you because she doesn't whip you. Well, Scripture says, spare the rod, spoil the child, but he's not. When they talk about the rod, that we're talking about discipline. We're talking about structure. We're not talking about a belt.
Yeah. And that communication, working through that problem to a resolution with that child, begins to understand these are the things when he grows up, he's going to do those things himself in his relationships or her
relationship. We've got 5 seconds.
Okay.
Listen, I appreciate you being here. We're out of time, but I'm going to give you a couple seconds to share some last minute points.
If you go to, well, go to Facebook and type in groups in the search bar, type in groups and put in musician love, and it will take you to the group. Now, I did not know this before today. I'm a member, so I didn't know that you have to join the group in order to get the things that are in the group, but you can get the book. You can log into that and you'll get the song when this release I'm coming out with, you can get that. You'll be able to get a success calculator. That's one of the tools I'm working on for you to understand how to do this thing called love. And it actually, it's not just about love, it's about helping you realize what's inside of you so that you can bring that out and become stronger in that area and pursue those things that are within you, that you want to reach, the goals that you want to reach, the success you want to make. This thing is designed to help you get there. Go to groups, write in the search engine groups, put in musician love, or you can type in that address that's there and it'll take you there. Don't be afraid to join the group, and let's see you. I'll give you some more information when you're there.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much. I did put it in the comments, so it's there for people to just click on that link and join this group and be more loving towards each other. Thank you so much for being here. And,
thank you so much for having me.
God bless you. And all of you, my listening audience, we'll see you next week. And if you would just mind holding on, I'll come back to you after I shut us down, okay?
All right.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of us talking about love. And if we can just embrace loving on ourselves and on each other, not looking back, but moving forward in love, that's what we need to do. So, like, comment, and please subscribe to the Vera Thomas Show. And if you care to donate to help me with my program, it would be appreciated. You can go to Cash App, $InStillGreat, or Venmo VT1117. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week.
Let's talk about it on the Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show.